My dear friends, the two readings are dense and could each merit an analysis, but I'll just take one phrase from the first reading and two from the second. It has been picked up by the monastic centuries, what is referred to as the sin of murmuring. It's what happens in a closed circuit. There's nothing new coming in, so one looks for things to complain about, and it devastates communities. Speaking behind the back of, especially when it concerns the superior, it brings poison and cancer. If things are to be said, they're to be said in the face of somebody and not behind his back. Remember that. But also, it's something that we might have with regard to life itself. The modern translation of the word to murmur here is grumbling. Grumbling. We all know the grunt, the grumbler, don't we? Everything is to be complained about. It's the mentality of behind every silver lining, there's a cloud. But I want to zoom in to the gospel. There is an expression coming here as the time of your visitation, which is strongly Hebrew. Visitation is a powerful word in the Old Testament. It's the coming in of God. It's the interfering of heaven. It's the acting within our time and space. And it's happening also to us. Right now, it's happening to a maximal degree. But it's happening all the time. Which brings me to where I want to land. If we only knew what pertained to our peace. Now again, this word is strong. This notion of wholeness, shalom, is not just peace, cessation from hostilities. Indeed, in Welsh we have two words. One is heddwch, and it's that. The other one is tangnefedd, stillness of peace. And that's what we're asked to get into. Why? Because our visitation is so strong that we are inhabited. Our encounters are so direct that we are without a barrier before the radiation of all the force of heaven, right now at the altar. So we should come away in that mode. That's partly why it's extremely wounding to the whole court of heaven, part of which is present in our churches, when in that sacred sphere of the stillness, the tangnefedd of God, we have human voices coming in. This morning, early, I was in the back of Beyond, in an ancient church, still there and still unspoilt, in a historic spot of Ireland. Rosnaree is where the future of Ireland was partly decided. You know the Battle of the Boyne. Well, there they have one of these old transept-shaped churches. They're the old ones. We used to have one at Stoholmog. They're the old ones of Ireland that were built when they only had a few pennies. A lot of them are still standing. And they're dense with prayer. They're also open and still dense with prayer when we go in and there's no one there. Remember that. Often, the noisiness of our assemblies can be compensated for by those gratuitous moments of going into our still open country churches in Meath. The angels are waiting for you, the Lord is there, and you're visiting him, and he's coming to you with all the power of his visitation, if you knew the things that pertain for your peace, because this is our problem. And I want to leave it with you. We don't know what's good for us. And we don't know what is good for our peace. Just this week, I was talking to somebody who knew a bit about the problem. Do you know that scientists will tell you that after a while, the person who is sitting passively before the television is, as time goes on, entering into the same mode of mental functioning as, wait for it, the person who is in a mental state of depression. What's happening is this. The mental functions are slowing down and becoming more or less switched off and completely passive. There's no more action, and it's the same behavioral pattern within the brain for the person who has lost the spark of life and is, as we say, depressed. I was talking also to a young mother who was telling me this. She's trying her best to bring up her children without the babysitter of the screen. It's very engaging, it's very demanding, but she's trying her best. But when occasionally, because there are two of them now, two children, she has to park one so as to handle the other, e.g. for breastfeeding, then she notices that after a time before the screen of the cartoons or whatever she might give the child, already that child is damaged. And it takes a while for him to come down again. You look at children out there, and it's a pattern that one observes. They can't sit still. They're damaged. But it applies also to an adult. That person needs to be titillated by strong impulses. Even television itself now, compared with what it was in the 60s, is strong. They're not the slow, calm, black and white frames that were there in the beginning of television. They're aggressively bombarding frames, one after the other, and words all the time. A person, and it could be you, who can't switch off is damaged. People can't bear to be exposed to silence. Even in Ireland, you can see it. People can't bear a celebration which is longer than 40 minutes maximum nowadays. And if it's there, they'll start this sin of grumbling. What has happened? They're coming to church to be entertained. And that's what they're getting. The quality of our celebration is very much to scratching the itch for something new. And how many jokes are cracked in church? How much news is exchanged in the pulpit? Where, I say, where is that visitation which is purely divine, which demands 100% attention, to which we just cannot give when we need to be scratched? That brings me back to the years in formation, all those years, since 1976, where silence was the language of time in the cloister. And one day, this is now in Italy, they were going to make a new cell because the community was growing, and they were opening a window in a wall and making of that a cell. It was going to be mine. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the place where heaven and earth will meet. In that cell, there was to be nothing but scripture, study, and prayer. And it was, as it happens, facing the sanctuary, facing the Lord. So that also looking out of the window was looking at where the Lord was. And I remember thinking to myself, in this country area, there is the sound of silence in the air. I will not spoil it by noise of my own. And in those days, we did not have things like the mobile phone. I bring it to you, my friends. Where do your evenings go? Are you able to taste the sound of silence and the power of the word? Or do you have to be plugged into powerful things? Because if you are, I'm telling you, You're living outside yourself, and you won't feel time passing until it's over. And you'll ask yourself at your last breath, did I know what pertained to my peace? Or did I miss the Lord in his visitation?
De cella in celum, from cell to heaven. The phrase that the novice master used in the Carthusian house in France. The monk should not need purgatory, but go from cell to heaven. Lines written during the construction of the new cell at Saint-Antimo, initially destined for me. It looked towards the church across the cloister garth. A corner of the cosmos, but a space wherein till death to hide. Nay, not too wide, but wide enough for Godhead. One last space wherein vast aeons march, a cell beside the lamp where burns my Lord, a little spot that none on earth shall see, where none may come to strange and exile hearth, where are forgot the sounds of yesterday, the sounds of home. This is a building here, and ears stand long between these new standing walls, where evermore the hours will swing twixt syllables and song. For all to be must be behind this one door. Oh, home, hard by my home, come now and be a dungeon barred enough to set me free.